Alright, welcome back everybody. I know it's been a while since I made a video. Excuse me, I had to move that. But today I'm rear-ending and front-ending my car. I'll probably do this in a bunch of different sections. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll be honest about this. This is my first time I've gone into this deep of fabrication. I've done very small fabrication before. I've done a lot of prepping in the past for welding and stuff like that. This is the first time I am looking into welding myself and also fabricating myself due to the fact that I'm not rich. I wish I was, but I'm not. Continuing forward, I had a little bit of damage back here in one of my frame rails, and my two front frame rails have already been replaced by WG Auto here in Fort Myers, where I'm from. So the front end's already looking good, although I am still going to cut and tube front end the car, so no damage ever gets further back than from what's already replaced, I guess. I'll explain my theory for that a little bit later, but I guess I'll kind of just walk you guys through how I'm going about this, because if I look at everything in a grand scheme of things, I start to lose my mind, and I feel like a lot of people might also do the same thing as well. I mean, this in 5 years of making this car, I wouldn't be thinking that this is what this car would have came out to be like, especially when I was 19 years old when I first picked up this car. So, you know, everything's been very little by little and kind of just figuring things out as they go. There has been things that I've done and I've had to redo in the past as well. So keeping that in mind, I have a torch in my hand now, but keeping that in mind, I'm not looking to try to have to redo this. I would like for this to be like one design where it's like I'm taking everything into consideration. There's a lot of things to consider whenever I'm creating this tube frame. Some of this stuff, I want it to be somewhat of a crumple zone in case I hit a wall. I don't want it to upset my car too much, where it'll suck me into the wall. If I can give some bars some give while still maintaining structure in more important areas, that's what I would like to do, as well as making things easier to replace in terms of, like, you know, a quick release bumper that has like a bolt going through it, stuff like that. Anyways, enough of me talking. Let's just get straight to this. I'll address a few things that I kind of have to take care of right now and then move forward accordingly. Step number 1, cut everything without cutting too much. And here's what I mean by that. I kind of already knew that for tube front end, obviously you pick it up off the frame rails. There are formula drift regulations that tell you not to pass these sway bar linkages, so I can't pass anything beyond that point going forward. So I'm going to do my best to retain this area as best as I can. Theory is I have this square tube, which I'm planning on stacking two, one on top of another, coming out towards here, and pretty much at level with this, creating a square or a rectangle right here, along with a couple other tubes going around here and another two going around here. Anyways, moving on with that. Right now, my concern when I'm looking at this is how far do I need to cut this back? Because I did give myself some room here, so I gave myself about 1 inch. So as I'm taking apart this seam sealer, I can see here. So after cleaning this up a little bit, you could obviously see that there's, you know, this metal does come out to over here a little bit. So I'm going to take advantage of that and use that as provided structure. Meaning I'm most likely going to end up cutting this a little bit further back up until this point, so I can still use this as added structure as well. I'm assuming I'm going to run either into the same thing I'm seeing here, or if not, I'm going to need to make the plate that I create here along with this in this scenario, leaving me to be able to cut this essentially like that is what I'm looking forward to do. However, before I get to all the fun stuff and actual fabricating, I do still have a little bit more damage I got to deal with over here. So I got a few things I got to straighten out. Like you can see, some of the metal here is splitting. I do have a little bit of damage back over here as well, which I am also taking into consideration to repair. You can see here is a little bit of a gap versus over here there's none at all. So I'm going to go from the inside out and hammer this back into place to where it needs to go, and then weld that back to, you know, fitting the way it needs to be. All right, so I already got a lot done. For the most part, everything's kind of already welded. I'm stitch welding some of the frame rails going forward and stuff like that right now. But on both sides, I ended up hammering. Just drop something. I ended up hammering this panel a little bit closer to this so it could be flush. And then I did a bead on the inside, and then I did a second bead on the outside, kind of overlapping that. Moving forward, and then I still have yet to go up right here. These welds are cold now, but I got to go up right there a little bit, and then I'm stitch welding the rest of the chassis going forward like so. And the way that I'm going about stitch welding this chassis, as you can see, you have these spot welds which are already there from the manufacturer. So what I'm doing is I'm going in the middle of it. These are a little bit warm, but I'm going in between the middle of these, and I'm doing a spot weld in between each middle that I find. And yeah, that way it kind of just forms like a little triangle of tension, I guess. It'll help, you know, stiffen up the chassis a little bit more. Also, I forgot to mention, not only am I trying to make sure that these metals are as close as possible, I do preheat these metals with a little bit of a butane torch. So prior to welding, like right before I weld, I kind of heat up the area that I'm about to weld. That way it welds a little bit easier, wants to melt a little nicer. Something to warm it up, especially right now. Like, it's cold today in Florida, so for whatever cold is in Florida, so. Oh, all right. Now that I have everything squared off, I already made sure with this straight bar that this thing is very parallel on both sides. So this is very flush right now. Now to get this hole the way that I need it, I'm still gonna need to fabricate a little piece that's gonna end up going right here to finish this off right here. But to get the main part of what I need, what I'm gonna end up doing is taking a piece of cardboard, and I'm gonna hammer it in so that way it cuts out the shape that I need, and that way it's a lot easier for me to draw elsewhere. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of set my phone up somewhere. That way you can see. Doesn't need to be a crazy hammer, but the most important part with all this is making sure the cardboard doesn't move. And if it moves, then it's not going to be accurate. So I'm left with this template. So I'm going to cut out on the outside edge of it somewhat. Gonna use this once I cut it out, put it on some metal, draw out the outline, and then cut the piece of metal to that size, and it should fit perfectly right here. Now, I know this car is very uneven on both sides, so I'm gonna make sure that I just do its own for that side. So I am gonna label this for driver's side, and I'm gonna label the other one for passenger side, because for example, here we see differences that this side's a little bit longer, while this side is a lot shorter here. Just to play it safe that way. Just for a closer look, I mean, I got this thing fitting up pretty well. It's a little bit overhanging right here, but I'm not mad. Regardless, I could fill all this stuff in with the bead. Obviously, this isn't sitting flush right now. It's just held up and kind of just hanging. Over on this side, though, it's like a money shot. Like, it just belongs there. Honestly, what I might end up doing, I do have a crack on the inside, so there's a crack up in here, which I'm gonna tack weld real quick, and then I'll probably just end up tack welding this up top like so, just how it is, because I do have this hole right here, so I'm gonna end up taking advantage of that, filling that up, and probably tack welding it so it stays still with that. And then once it's tacked, I'll just grind the bottom to level and then weld that together accordingly. All right, I'm gonna put you guys on. This right here is OSFO. This is really good with removing rust. This piece right here came off of that piece over there, which you can see is really rusted. I'll go over there in just a second, but just so you can see how it's came out. Be careful with this stuff. Do not get it in your eye. But this is how this is looking now versus how it was looking. All right, so now that I had the plates on there, I had to find what's it called? The center of at least one plate. And then I gotta keep in mind it's an 1.5 inch tube, and I'm gonna double stack them, but for the most part, I had to find the center and then find the 1.5 inch so that way I could get this edge to get the outer. Same thing over here, which I got the center and then I got the outer, so that way I could just measure outer to outer, and then that'll be the main length for the outer tube. And then I'll have to figure out the length I'm gonna need from this part till here. Now, the tricky part about that is the fact that I need to have that at level with this. So what I might end up doing is leaving those a little bit longer than what I might need them to be. So for example, if what I actually need is 20 inches, I'll leave it at like 22 or whatnot, whatever it may be. But at least as of right now, I need 40.5 on each side, or 41.5. I already have it measured on the pipe that I'm about to cut, but that's where I'm at right now. All right, so it's been a few days, maybe almost a week since I've started this whole tube frame project. I'm just now getting around to finishing up the main structure. I honestly don't know if I recorded this part yet or not, but I'm here to make it in case I didn't already. So I'm here down to my last 3 cuts on the main structure. I'm gonna go back real quick and show you what I got done going on in the back real quick. That way I can explain everything what's going on. So I'm not entirely sure where we left off as far as it goes, but on the work that I have done so far, I got this plated out. I got a lot of stitch welding done up top here. Before I drop that, I still got some stitch welding to do across this. I got to cut a little bit back here. I'm cutting here and out as well still, and I just keep dropping stuff. We're not going to talk about that. I got the main structure as far as that goes here, and then what I keep dropping are these tabs that I'm going to end up adding into this tube frame as well. So furthermore, I'm going to end up having to grind these welds on the edge down to make sure they're just flat, and then I'm going to end up presenting these like so. Obviously, I'm going to end up having to clean up these cuts, but they'll end up being presented like that. I'll end up welding this onto there. I'm going to end up creating a plate that's going to end up being, so this is 1.5, so it's going to be another 1.5 this way and another 1.5 this way. So that would end up being a total of, I think, 4.5 inches like that. And then I'll end up, once I have those tabs here, I'll end up creating a plate, welding another plate onto here, and then drilling holes. And then that right there will be my mounting point for my main bumper coming back here. So it'll end up being a 90 here and a 90 back over here. Furthermore, I will also end up adding tabs that instead of sitting sideways like this, I'm going to end up having tabs that are going to end up going like this on the edge. So I will have to come down over here and also clean up some of these welds to make sure this sits flush. Or if not, I could just go about 1/4 inch off and make sure I could get some material, or a lot of material, welded up in there as well. And then I'll create another flat tab coming from the bottom, and then that will end up holding my crush tubes. That way, you know, in the case of an impact, I can have these tubes right here be replaced, and I won't have to end up stressing about, oh, I have to weld something, or, you know, so on and so forth. I'll just be able to have this set up, and then in the event that something like this breaks, one of these bars breaks, I could just unbolt it and then put a new bar on there and forget the rest. So it is about probably like 10 o'clock on Tuesday. This is kind of where I'm at. That side's about ready for the plate. I just need to open up those holes and make the holes over there as well. And yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how I'll make the holes per se. I mean, I'll probably just take a piece of cardboard is what I'm thinking. I'll probably take a piece of cardboard and hammer it. And then that'll give me the imprint of where the hole's going to go. Obviously cut the piece of cardboard to size for the size that I need, and then hammer it in so I can get these bolt holes kind of sunken in, and that way I can just turn the cardboard over. I'll see the imprint, cut out those little holes, and then I'll just transfer that over to you know, the plate that I have over there. But this is kind of where I'm at. I still have yet to grind down these welds, which I have to do. Which if they look sunken in, they kind of are. I mean, the bottom bar is a little bit more inwards by about like a 1/16. The bottom bar goes in a little bit more than the top, so I could just take this and it kind of goes across, versus over here it's just like very, very smooth up to down. But yeah, so the way that I got this was, obviously I took my measurement from here, 1.5, and the middle of 1.5 is 3/4. So I took a small hole, which was 1/8, and then I took a 3/8, which is the bolt size that I need to have in there, and tie-sensed it through that to make sure that everything is very linear and very straight, and I don't have any issues along with that. Over here, I mean, I'm gonna put it in the middle, but inwards or outwards, it doesn't necessarily matter. I'm just gonna want this to both be the same on both sides. I just wanted to at least make sure that this was somewhat towards the center, so that way it's not too close to here, so I can at least make sure that I can get a bolt going across this, which this is technically the amount of space I would have on the other side of this bar to put a bolt and a washer on, so I'll be fine with this. All right, and this right here is essentially what this finished product I say, but this is kind of, I'm having a rough day today. So let me explain kind of what happened in this scenario. This is the base coat that I laid out. With Rust-Oleum, I guess, you either have to spray the clear within the first hour, or you have to wait 48 hours for you to apply clear. And I applied some clear at about 12 hours later, right there, and it was from U-Pull. Now, I do know that Rust-Oleum is also oil-based. They say this is also compatible with solvents. I'm going to test that theory again in a couple days to see if it works out or not. If it works out, then I'll just wet sand this, which I have to anyways, so it doesn't look this hideous, because I didn't do all this work to make it look like this, you know? Regardless, though, this is kind of how it's going to sit for a little bit. I have to get back to work on an IS300 I'm working on, but for the time being, this still makes me happy in terms of the way it came out, the way it looks. I can stand on this and it won't come down, obviously. I do still have a bar that needs to go from here to here, so honestly, thank God I didn't do the clear coat, because regardless, I have to sand some of this stuff down and fab some stuff. I'll end up going over the design of what I may or may not end up doing for that. But yeah, I guess this will probably end up ending this part of the video. The only thing I have left for this setup is creating a bumper that goes from here over to here, and then creating the bars that go from inside these tabs to over inside these tabs. I already made sure the pipes fit inside there, so that's all good. I have to create a plate, which I have yet to make for that. And yeah, so I'll just leave it right there. It's a huge mess in here. I'm a little bit upset that the clear coat did that, but I think honestly it might end up being for the benefit. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time, and enjoy the rest of your day.